zástupce společnosti Wágner, Albrecht and Company, pan Albrecht Wágner. Dr. Wágner, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I thank the CE Group for the opportunity to present to you in these wonderful surroundings a few ideas and a few charts on the European gas target model, and especially on one of the essential studies underlying the creation of the European gas target model. Can we see the charts, please, on the screen? Thank you. Let's have first a look at the background of the European gas target model, and specifically on its underlying model which laid the intellectual foundation for it, which was the so-called MECO-S model. The third energy package, we all know, aims at finally completing the internal market for natural gas. It does also so for power, but we're talking about natural gas here. And it foresees a number of implementation instruments, especially the numerous net codes foreseen for TSOs, transport system operators in gas, which shall regulate how they do and go about their business. But when one reads the third package and its various documents, it remains unclear what does it mean to have an internal market. What is a completed internal market? How does it look like? How does it feel like? And this question arose rather quick after the third package has been put into place. Consequently, the regulators on the 18th Madrid Forum suggested the creation of a European gas target model. Also, the EU Commission was quite fond of that idea. And so it was decided in 2010 that a European gas target model should be created that should clarify how the gas market should look after it has been completed. The EGTM was tasked with clarifying important questions of gas market architecture. I will explain this a little bit later. And it shall function as a guideline for further implementation steps on a national and supranational level. As you know, the third package had to be and is still in the process in some countries of being transposed into national regulation, into various regulatory decrees. There's the network code process for the transport system operators still ongoing. And the target model should act as a guiding light for all of these transposition and detailing measures so that it was made sure that they all work in the same direction towards a common goal. The development of the target model was concluded with the publishing of the so-called CER, the regulator group, Vision for a European Gas Target Model on the 1st December of 2011. After an intensive consultation process, and there were a number of studies done underneath or before the creation of that paper. And one of the more important studies which laid the intellectual background for this was the so-called MECO-S model study that resulted from a working group which included the Florence School of Regulation, which also published and finally the study. It included the Klingendahl Institute, which is an important Dutch think tank on energy matters, and it included our company, and of course regulators from Germany and Austria. This MECO-S model was the basis for the work that started later on in the CER working group, and finally most of the elements of the MECO-S model were reflected in the gas target model. The CR vision paper, when you look at it, also refers to the MECO-S model as an external source for its contents. And what I will present to you next is the contents from the MECO-S model that we have co-developed, which were finally taken over into the CER European gas target model. One quick look on an issue that I just explained. What is the role of the European gas target model? When we look at the upper section of that chart, we see a lot of different implementation measures foreseen in the third package. We see framework guidelines for capacity allocation management, we see network codes for balancing, for tariffs, we see national regulatory decrees and so on. and all of them potentially leading in different direction or not fully aligned, maybe in the same general direction, but not aiming at the same goal. And the European gas target model shall help to align all of these different implementation steps so that in the end a consistent European gas target model, a European gas market architecture emerges. The MKS model that has been reflected in the European gas target model is usually represented in this house analogy. It has 3 pillars. The first pillar is to enable functioning wholesale markets. And the idea of this is that European gas markets should be integrated to zones which are large enough so that they can develop a liquid wholesale market within themselves, so that every end user can be served from such a liquid wholesale market. As those who are active in trading know, liquidity is quite priceless property of a market. It enables risk management, it enables more efficient procurement measures and so on. Number 2, once we have structured Europe into a number of functioning wholesale markets, we need to make sure that the gas can flow between those markets in an unconstrained, quick and efficient way. So we need to connect these markets as tightly as is possible and as efficiently as is possible. And again, from a trading perspective, this means that the gas will always flow unconstrained from the lower priced market to the higher priced market, helping to align gas prices all over Europe. Pillar number 3, to enable secure supply patterns. This pillar is a bit of a bag of different things, and it includes measures regarding long-term capacity bookings and other things, and I will skip details on this pillar since it can be read in the CER target model. And all of this has a common foundation, which is to improve effectiveness by realizing economic pipeline investments, meaning there should be tools, and these tools are in a certain way foreseen also in the CER target model, that make sure that pipelines which are required by the market are actually built, and a process has been devised how the market shall be tested for its interest, for its long-term interest in additional pipeline capacity. Now let's have a look at some of these pillars and of the foundation, what they mean in detail. Pillar 1, the idea of this, as I explained before, is to structure network access to the European gas network into large entry-exit zones that follow either the market area or the trading region model. As we all know, or those familiar with the third package for gas know, it is foreseen that network access in Europe is structured into entry-exit networks, meaning networks where you can buy entry capacity and exit capacity with different contracts in different amounts at different points of time. So it's the death of the point-to-point contract. And what this pillar says is that we shall have large entry-exit zones in Europe. At the moment we have in Europe a little bit less than 30 entry-exit zones. This is far too many, and the idea is here to structure the European gas network into fewer zones according to 2 models, either the market area model, which I will explain in a second, or the so-called trading region model. And all of these zones shall serve at least 20 BCM of consumption. So this is more than the Czech Republic has at the moment, it is more than Austria has at the moment, it is more than Slovak Republic has at the moment, it is more than Belgium has at the moment. So there will be some market merger in the future in order to implement this model, and maybe we can discuss this later on what this means. It also has an impact on storage projects, of course. And thirdly, every one of these markets shall have physical access to gas from at least 3 sources, so that supplier competition or producer competition really takes place within these markets, and that the choice of the buyers are enlarged. Now, what does it mean to have a market area? Market area looks like this. We have 2 graphs on the left-hand side. One shows a national market area, and another one shows a cross-border market area. The functioning of such a market area is always the same. We have one wholesale market within the market area. We have a so-called virtual point. You can imagine a virtual point as a bookkeeping device where a trader who has injected gas into a market can convert the property in the gas to another shipper, or shift the property to another shipper in the process of selling gas on this so-called virtual point. We have entry contracts that enable shippers to inject gas into the market area and to then transport it to the so-called virtual point. We have exit contracts that entitle shippers to transport gas from virtual points down to end users or to other exit points, to other markets or to storages. We have a single balancing zone where all of the forecasting errors regarding end user load are balanced by usually a single balancing operator. And that's the most important thing with market areas, we have the distribution zones, the distribution networks fully integrated into this overarching balancing mechanism. So end users attached to distribution systems are balanced in the big market area. We have a single set of balancing rules and one balancing entity. Balancing, as you know, is the process of offsetting or evening the balance between injections and takeoffs from end users, which can never be perfectly balanced because there's forecasting errors. And we have a single set of rules for metering and standardized load profiles, which is a technical detail of the whole process. So this is the market area model. This is currently in its purest form in Europe, only implemented in Germany. There are other countries who have variations of the market area model, but this is now the guidepost. This is one of the models that shall be implemented in the future in Europe. The alternative model is the so-called trading region model. Now, if you look at the graph on the left-hand side, and I'm going back to the other chart now so that you can focus on the differences. In the other chart, we had a single market area down to the end users. In the trading region model, we have a market that is confined to the transportation systems, to the big fat pipelines, whereas the end users, which are attached to the distribution systems, are still left in their own balancing zone, in the so-called end user zone. Again, we have a fully integrated wholesale market. Again, we have a virtual point where gas can be transferred between shippers, where trading can take place, where pure financial paper trading can take place, but also physical trades can be affected. We have, again, entry contracts that are entitled to inject gas into the trading region. We have exit contracts. These exit contracts entitle the shippers to get gas down from the trading region to the end users, where the end user demand shall be fulfilled. And the balancing of the end user load, and this is the big difference to the market area model, is effected in individual end user zones, which, in this example, which we see here, are separated between country E and country B. The most important thing why this trading region model was implemented is to maintain the opportunity to have end user balancing still done according to national rules and reflecting national specifics, while still having an integrated wholesale market which crosses the borders of individual countries. So the idea of a trading region is that we can merge markets on a wholesale level over several countries, over several national borders, and still have, which is a process which should be effected or can be effected rather quickly with very few or fewer implementation problems, whereas the end users are still balanced according to the national balancing rules. So if we would consider, for instance, let's take an example which is far away. For instance, the Netherlands and Belgium, they could quite easily form a trading region on the level of their transportation systems, integrate their wholesale markets, and the end users in the Netherlands would still be balanced according to the Dutch balancing rules, and the end users in Belgium would still be balanced by a Belgian balancing operator according to the Belgium balancing rules and balancing specifics. So that is the market architecture that would be, if you look at a couple of years from now on Europe from an eagle perspective, you would see a couple of market areas and you would see a couple of trading regions. The big question that is always asked, and I will preempt that question now, is how many? We expect that after this model has been fully implemented, we will see 5 to 6 large markets in Europe, large entry-exit zones, either market areas or trading regions. Remember, at the moment we have around 30. So this is quite an integration effort that we're foreseeing. Once Europe has been structured into fewer integrated markets, and this is what we see here is a 4-zone model for all of Europe, could be 5, could be 6. These markets need to be connected very closely because we do not only want to have liquid wholesale trading within a zone, even if it spans several nations, we also want to have liquid trading between the zones. And for this, we need to make sure that we have transportation products which the shippers can buy easily and which the shippers can operate on easily. So we want transportation products where capacities between the markets are allocated in a single process. So when you buy exit capacity from, say, the Czech Republic to Germany, you would get in the same process the same amount of entry capacity into Germany. There would be no mismatches, no booking risk. You could nominate these capacities with a single nomination. Nomination meaning that you tell the transport operator how much gas you actually want to transport. And potentially, you could also integrate these two capacities, which are in 2 different jurisdictions, offered by 2 different transportation operators, into even a single integrated contract, which can be booked by only one transport operator. Another concept which has been intensively discussed regarding the connection of markets is the so-called market coupling process. On the chart before, we saw transportation products which could be booked months ahead, years ahead, and would be used by shippers. And shippers would use these products to trade between the different markets, trying to arbitrage, price differentials down, trying to transport gas even long distance to their customers. Market coupling is a different animal. It is a process that aims at aligning market prices between neighboring markets or even several neighboring markets on a day ahead or even intraday timescale. And the idea is that you install a special process which is not operated by a shipper but by a special entity, sometimes called the market coupling office, or the TSOs could play a role here as well, where it is made sure that the gas on a day ahead and intraday basis always flows from the lower price market to the higher price market, so that the price differentials become as small as possible, either zero, or this process could also stop before when the transportation capacity is fully used. From an economist's perspective, this is a public welfare increase measure, and therefore an interesting tool. At the moment there's a field test running of such a procedure in France on the basis of a special process the French have invented for them, and the results we hear from that are quite encouraging. Lastly, economic pipeline investment. If there is not enough capacity between markets, or if there is not enough capacity on the border of Europe to import more gas from a foreign source, then we need an efficient process of finding out if there is too little capacity. And the best way to do this is not only to ask shippers if they're interested in more capacity, but to file contingent bookings for potential additional capacity. So the idea is that the network operators, in a revolving process, offer to shippers options for long-term pipeline investment and pipeline enlargement, and shippers would have the opportunity to bid on these options, and then the TSO calculates if he has got enough long-term bids to make the investment economically worthwhile, and if it's economically worthwhile, then he will invest, or he will have to invest. That is also a part of the target model. It's something that is still in discussion, how the details of this shall work. In England, such a process is in place. In Europe, there are voices saying it's more difficult. This is definitely the case. The island structure of pipelines is much different from this intermeshed web we see in Europe. But still, the idea of making such a ongoing revolving process and making pipeline investment a process of the regular business is a good one. That was a brief introduction into the MEQS model. All of those who are familiar with the CER target model will have recognized these elements of our study. The three pillars: enable functioning markets by integrating markets, creating fewer zones, by tightly connecting the markets with hub-to-hub transport products or market coupling, and potentially market coupling, by enabling secure supply patterns, enabling long-term bookings, enabling long-distance bookings even, and the common foundation to make sure that economic pipeline investments are actually taking place. Thank you very much, and I'll pass the floor back again.